Is Apple stock a buy? Welcome in, guys. That is what we are talking about here today. Is Apple stock a buy? So many of you guys have been wanting me to go super in depth on Apple and kind of view this and is this a steal now? I think Apple hit around $172 now. Is Apple stock a steal here or is it not? So we're just going to kind of go into depth on this. Hope you guys enjoy this. By the way, today is Black Friday. I got a couple deals for you guys. One is on the stock options course, 70% off. And then I also put my huge course, a 51 video stock market course, at 70% off as well. I will pin both of those as the comments. They're going to be discounted all day, so if you guys want to pick up those for 70% off, you have that opportunity, all right? Let's get into this. So first off, Apple stock here today, as we spoke about, hit $172 a share, down another 2.5% today. Now, if we look, Apple stock has been on a tear for quite a while. If we go back to around the fall time, late summer, maybe the fall time of 2016, that was around where Apple had bottomed out at. And since that time, since around iPhone 7 launch, this stock has almost been up in a straight line. It had a few little dips here and there, but no major dips in Apple stock for quite a while. This stock was just up and away, all the way up until we get to around October 1st. That's when the stock tops out, and then ever since then, it has just been down and down and down. Some of that is because of the market, and some of that was because of their earnings and them announcing that basically they're not going to, show how many iPhones they're selling anymore. So it's kind of a double whammy on Apple. Stock market got really weak all of a sudden the last month or two. A lot of volatility in the market. A massive amount of stocks have gone down, a huge. So it's not like Apple's the only one. And then also the iPhone news on top of that has freaked a lot of people out. If we look at Apple stock here, we're looking at a company that has a market cap of around $817 billion right now. Now keep in mind this was over $1 trillion market cap not too long ago, so it has fallen quite substantially. Forward PE, we're looking at under 12 now at this point in time for Apple, all right? That is a little ridiculous in my opinion. What type of stocks do I think Apple should be valued with? So if we're looking at it on a PE basis, what type of valuation do I think Apple should have? I think they should be grouped in with a lot of the companies like the Coca-Colas of the world, okay? Coca-Cola has a forward P of 22. Remember, Apple was at 11. Forward P of 22 on Coca-Cola. Procter & Gamble, forward P of over 19 on that stock. Johnson & Johnson, forward P of over 16 on that stock. McDonald's, forward P of over 22. Why do I think Apple should be grouped in with those type of companies? Well, they're very, very similar companies in a few realms, okay? The first one is all those businesses have very consistent business models. All of them are very consistent. And if you look at Apple's business model, very consistent. Someone's iPhone breaks, they go get another one, okay? If my iPad stops working, I'm going to buy another one, all right? The services has created a whole new level of consistency in their business model. People spending money on apps every month. People that have subscription services to a lot of different things. I'm subscribed to Apple Music. It's like, I think $9.99 a month or $12.99 a month or whatever it is, right? Every single month those charges, and think about how many millions, hundreds of millions of customers Apple has to monetize over time in the services category. So their business model is very consistent. Number two, they are a dividend payer. They pay a nice dividend. I think their dividend is going to grow up dramatically over the next 5 to 10 years. I think right now their dividend yield is something like 1.7%, somewhere around there right now, which isn't, bad, but it's certainly not a good dividend yield. I think over time their dividend is going to be able to increase dramatically. Number three, they have a great management team, a proven management team that's been there for a long time. This company for the last 20 plus years has been phenomenally run. Since Steve Jobs came back in around 97, he got the company back moving in the right direction, right? He passes on around 2011. Tim Cook takes over and the company's just taking things up to new and new levels ever since then. And number four, they have many different income streams. It's not like they're just relying on one product, one category or whatnot. They have a ton of different categories that are growing very nicely, as we'll see in just a second here, that are all big businesses and some of the biggest businesses in the world if they were broken out, all right? Next up here, I love to call this company Mr. Worldwide. Remember when Pitbull had that song, Mr. Worldwide? That's what this reminds me of, okay? Look at their business all over the globe. It is increasing dramatically. If we look at the Americas, business is up dramatically, 19%. Europe, 18%. Greater China, 16%. Japan, 34%. Rest of Asia Pacific, 22%. That's revenue growth, 20% year over year. Every single market is doing very well for them. Now, if we look at their actual product categories broken down, we're going to see phenomenal growth in iPhone, right? Amazing growth, 29% revenue growth in an iPhone. We're going to see very strong numbers in services, up 17%. That's been a double-digit grower for a while now and should continue to be one. Other products category up 31%. Very impressive there. The the overall numbers, basically almost over $10 billion more in revenue this quarter than in the last quarter last year, guys. That's insane difference. I mean, just a year over year, nearly a $10 billion increase in a 3-month span is unreal, all right? The trouble categories, if you look at that, is iPad down 15% and Mac down 3%. I think, honestly, they just needed refreshes, right? So iPad just got refreshed, so that won't be seen in this past quarter numbers. That will be seen in this upcoming quarter's numbers. I think the new iPads have a lot of people excited. I think that will get back to growth in iPad, and then they just launched a bunch of new MacBooks, so I think that should, help the Mac category grow quite a bit. So when I look at those two categories, I think those will get back to growth, and then you got all the other consistent ones, iPhone, services, and the other products category growing very nice. Other products, by the way, is things like Apple Watch, which a lot of people are excited about, new Apple Watch, and then you're talking about AirPods and headphones and like the HomePod, things like that, all right? Also, this company is, look at the net income, okay? Look at that bottom line. We're talking about 40+% year over year growth in net income, all right? Earnings per share up 40+% year over year. Unbelievable numbers there. It's not just that they're growing net income just to grow net income, right? Research and development is still increasing dramatically, so they're still spending a ton of money on more employees and things like that. They can help expand the company over time. Look at last year. They had under $3 billion in research and development for the 3-month span ending in September, right? Now they had over $3.7 billion in research and development costs. So it's not like they're just like, oh, we're just going to keep the employees we have working on R&D now and just, keep that. No, they're still increasing that so that all their product categories can increase in the future and they can kind of stay, out in front of everybody in a ton of different product categories, all right? Then we look at their balance sheet. Unbelievable balance sheet, all right? Look at their cash and marketable securities. As far as short-term and long-term, we're talking about, if you add up all those categories, we're looking at around $235 billion, guys. That's ridiculous, all right? Ridiculous. If we look at their term debt, they have a little under $100 billion in overall debt. So literally, they could pay that out and they could pay that debt off in seconds and still have $100+ billion just laying around the balance sheet to play around with, all right? So far, there's a lot of positives out there. If you're looking at any of the numbers, any of the metrics out there, in my opinion, it's definitely looking like Apple stock's a buy where it's at now. Something else I love to look at whenever I'm looking at a company, I'm thinking about buying it or not, or what are the competitive threats? And how I want to break this down is into each product category, because it's not like they just have one company that's a competitive threat to them. They have a ton of different ones, all right? So first off, let's look at the phone category. There are really only 2 players, in my opinion, on the high end of phones that are competitive threats to them, okay? There are a lot of other players, a lot of Chinese players that play in the mid end or maybe even the lower end, but Apple really plays only at the high end. Samsung, Google, those are the same guys that have been there for a while. Google, it doesn't seem like they've done anything impressive as far as sales numbers for the Google Pixel. As a matter of fact, I was on the last conference call and they were talking about Google Pixel 3 and how the sales weren't doing too good. And that seems like it's been a really good phone. It seems like a really good phone, honestly. It just has not sold well. I don't know if they don't have the marketing right for that phone or what the deal is, or maybe it's just hard to get people away from Apple and Samsung on the high end. And obviously Google's going after the high end. It's a very high priced phone, right? But the Google Pixel numbers are just not good, although the phone seems impressive. Samsung, they're a competitive threat, but they haven't done anything as far as to hurt Apple, for years and years now. So they're just kind of hanging there. So phones, it's really not like they have any major competitors on the high end. Number 2, computers. They still have the same traditional PC companies that they had, as competitive threats for a long time there. Consumers that build out their PCs and do it all custom, that's still something that's been around for a long, long time. So as far as the computer, the Mac side of their business, it's kind of the same game as it's been before. Somebody wants an iMac like I have or a MacBook like I have, they get a MacBook or an iMac. That's just how it is, all right? As far as tablets go, there are a couple competitive threats. One's direct, one's indirect, okay? So Microsoft is a threat, certainly on the tablet side. Microsoft has actually done pretty good there. They spent a lot of money on their tablet side of their business. They want to still be a competitive threat, and they are a competitive threat. But also, huge phones are a competitive threat for the iPad business, because a lot of people, the way they look at it is and I think Samsung's talking about coming out with a 6.8-inch phone. I think something around their next Note might be 6.8 inches. The iPhones are I think are getting up to 6.5 inches now as far as the screen space. Maybe could have started approaching a 7-inch screen, right? These are massive devices now, and so a lot of people might look at it and say, why do I need an iPad that's maybe 9 inches if I have a phone that's 7 inches? That will be sufficient to me. So I think the big phone category is something that slowed down a lot of the tablet growth overall, and I think will continue to do so. I think that's probably actually the biggest competitive threat. It's not like there's a specific company. It's just a fact that, you know, Apple keeps coming out with bigger phones. Samsung does the same thing, and some people just look at it and they're like, I could just use my phone for whatever I was going to use my tablet for, all right? Number 4, we're talking about wearables now. Specifically, I'm talking about the Apple Watch. They have Fitbit, which is probably their main competitor, and they've honestly just been destroying them pretty much. Samsung's a little bit of a competitor as well, but you know, from what I've seen, if you're wearing a smartwatch of some kind, most people are just going with the Apple Watch now. You know, definitely Fitbit still has its kind of like, you know, very loyal core there, but they've been kind of getting smoked in that category lately, all right? Headphone side of their business, there's only really one major competitor, and that is Bose. The problem with Bose is they don't have the functionality. Apple can put so much functionality into their headphones on different things you can do, whether we're talking about the HomePods or what they can do with Beats over time, because Apple bought Beats several years ago, if you guys didn't know that already. So Bose is kind of their main competitive threat in the headphone space, high-end headphone space, but Apple can just add so much more functionality into their headphones that if you're looking at it and you're like, should I get a Bose or should I get a Beats or an Apple or something like that, you're almost kind of going toward the Apple side because it can add so much more functionality. And that's a big competitive advantage Apple has in all these, you know, accessory categories. If they have the main device you use, your phone, then they can do so many special things around the, you know, the iOS side there. So that's not really a big competitive threat. And then number 6 is the in-house assistant, all right? This is things like they have their HomePod now. They think about Amazon Echo and the Alexa devices, Google Home. Facebook has a new device out now, which is also like a screen, right? I think it's called Portal, if I recall, right? So the in-house assistant category, this is actually something they're definitely losing right now, okay? They just came out with their HomePod. It wasn't that long ago, like probably less than a year ago, right? And that's a category they are losing big time. I think Amazon's way out in front of everybody in the in-house assistant game right now with their Echo devices, Alexa, whatever you want to call them. I think almost, you know, everybody I know pretty much has at least a little Echo Dot in their home, if not one of the bigger devices. So Amazon actually got way out in front of everybody. So it'll be interesting to see if Apple can make up ground here, because they're actually playing from way behind in this game. So that's actually the one category as of right now I would say they're taking an L in. Everything else, I would say they're out in front of everybody in the high-end space. So Apple stock, when I look at it overall, absolutely, without question, if you have any type of long-term basis, 3, 5, 10 years, absolutely, I'd probably start buying some Apple shares. It's gone low enough now where I'm like, maybe I should start even buying some Apple shares here. The problem is there's so many other stocks I love too, but if I look at Apple stock alone, just looking at, is this stock a buy? Is this stock going to be massively higher 3 years, 5 years, 10 years from now than it is today? In my personal opinion, yes, it will be. It won't even be close. And not only should the stock price be much higher 3, 5, 10 years from now than it is today, but also the dividends paid out is going to go up dramatically, in my opinion, over the next 3, 5, 10 years. So from my perspective, it's definitely a buy out there. As always, do your own research on stocks, and if you want to buy a stock, but do your own research. Don't just base it upon what I am saying and what my feelings are. This is just my feeling on Apple stock. So I hope you guys enjoy this. By the way, if you want to take advantage of any of those deals on the Black Friday deals, that's going to be the pinned comment down there, options course, and my big stock market course. Thank you for watching and have a great day.